They're one of the most iconic fictional families in American history, right up there with the Simpsons and Dom's crew from the Fast and the Furious.
I got family.
They're the Dark Flinstones, the Addams family. It's a legacy itching to be revived in today's society. It reminds us not to just judge someone's outward appearance, that sometimes just because someone looks unfriendly doesn't mean that they are. They're just a family of nonconformists, a family who prefers Halloween over Christmas and lions over cats. For decades, society has just laughed at them for being weird, but as time goes by, they're looking more and more like the normal ones. Welcome to my video. Hope you're doing well. This time I'm diving into the legacy of America's creepiest, kookiest, and spookiest fictional family, the Addams family. That's Addams with 2 D's, created by a cartoonist named Charles Addams. Born in 1912, Addams was native to New Jersey and apparently quite the peculiar child. He enjoyed visiting his local cemetery and would hang out around creepy houses. The College Hall building on the campus of what is currently the University of Pennsylvania would inspire the design of the Addams family's mansion. He started drawing real early and would grow up to start drawing cartoons for The New Yorker as kind of a freelancer. Having drawn over 1,000 cartoons over his life, he would also make them as book anthologies and merchandise. His style usually included the one-panel gag cartoon format, and he became known for his dark humor and his grim but quirky designs. His Addams Family series started publishing in 1938 in that one-panel gag format. It was a satire of the American family who just happened to be wealthy. They had a love for all things macabre and spooky, kind of like the one family who loves Halloween so much they never take down their decorations. And while people on the outside found them scary or weird, the family wouldn't really give a shit about what people thought. They would just mind their own business, living their best, creepy lives, and being polite neighbors. It seemed that cartoonist Charles, aka Chaz Addams, was not a huge family man himself, so the Addams family wasn't necessarily reflecting his own life, more of the lifestyle he was into. The Addams family's most obvious features are that from the gothic subculture, and this is goth way before it got popular in music. This Addams family goth was inspired by gothic literature of the Romantic period of the 19th century, like Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, and Frankenstein. In the early 20th century, Chaz Addams was able to take from classic goth and modernize it in his own way, just as the film industry did in theirs, and the music culture did in the late 20th century. So The New Yorker overall would publish the Addams family cartoons regularly over 2 decades before Chaz was approached by a TV producer who, also a local to Pennsylvania, saw one of Chaz Addams' books displayed in New York, according to a LA Times article. The producer saw the family and thought it would make a hit TV show. He asked Addams for more information on the characters, mainly their names, because Addams hadn't already made it obvious yet. Mr. Addams would also insist that the characters be seen as a family of nonconformists rather than ghouls or villains. This marked the 1964 TV adaptation of The Addams Family. The cartoons would stop printing after the TV show was established, maybe since Addams didn't need to draw anymore for a while, as this was quite the come up for him. Again, he was basically a freelance cartoonist, but it's also implied that maybe the paper's editor heard about the TV deal and refused to publish his cartoons anymore.
Are you serious?
Now, this new live-action version of the Addams Family cartoon would literally bring them to life in front of a much wider audience and give everyone a better understanding of who they are. Their unique names would mirror their overall weirdness. The producers wanted to emphasize that these weren't evil characters, they were just different, and that they're more zany than they are spooky once you get to know them. Shot in black and white in California, it aired for 2 seasons on ABC. Now, this seems to be completely by coincidence, but during this exact same time between 64 and 66, a similar show called The Monsters were airing on CBS. In my opinion, The Monsters had a better theme song and the concept was better to understand. It was just a family of monsters living together. Monsters actually got higher ratings than the Addams Family, but the Monsters' reason for getting canceled was that they couldn't compete with ABC's new Batman show. Batman, Addams Family, and the Monsters were all great TV pop icons, and they all had that campy 60s appeal to them. Lurch the Butler even did a cameo on Batman to do his Lurch dance, which was popular back then. But the main difference with the Addams family, of course, was that they were regular people outside their appearance, and the TV show made them more humanized and relatable from their comic book variations. The show established that the head of the family, Gomez, was of Spanish descent, and while being a retired lawyer, he was stupid rich, apparently from owning companies and stocks. Gomez was the only one with kind of a backstory, even though it was confusing to understand. By the way, the actor on the show based Gomez on slapstick comedian Groucho Marx, the guy who inspired that glasses and mustache disguise, and he really kinda leans into it with the mannerisms. But with this lighter approach from the comics, it was well received by the audience as a unique little comedy, and the reruns continued showing for years after it canceled. During the 70s boom of animated TV, mainly through Hanna-Barbera, the new Scooby-Doo movies had an episode featuring the Addams family for the first time in animation.
That guy leading us, where have I seen his face before? Probably in some nightmare.
Hanna-Barbera went ahead and made their own Addams Family cartoon, premiering a year later. Now, I made a video about a year ago diving into the history of Hanna-Barbera, and not only did they invent Scooby-Doo, but they made a ton of other cartoons as well in this time period. Their originals would often get spin-offs, and they went out of their way looking for more cartoons to make. All Hanna-Barbera needed was an ensemble cast of characters, including one or two talking non-humans, and they had a show. The Addams family had the perfect makeup for a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, but like many of their spin-offs, it wasn't strong enough to go on for more than one season. After this cartoon came and went, there was a Halloween reunion special for the cast of the live-action show. It would mark the end of an era, as the 80s would have the tragic death of the actress who played Morticia, Carolyn Jones. Also, the Addams Family creator Charles Addams would meet his end in this decade as well. Right before his death, his cartoons returned to print for a while, so it's kinda like the Addams Family's life had come full circle. But now it was time for it to end. Now, I'm a strong believer that after 20 to 30 years of something's peak popularity, it will find a way to be popular again. So the Addams Family had their huge revival as soon as the 1990s began. Former cinematographer Barry Sonnenfeld, who would be known for directing the Men in Black trilogy, directed the 1991 Addams Family film, notably starring Christina Ricci as Wednesday and Doc Brown from Back to the Future as Uncle Fester. The movie dealt with a lot of issues getting produced, including going over budget, script rewrites, and taking 5 months to finish filming, but it ended up doing really well commercially, coming out holiday season of '91. The sequel movie that came out 2 years later did okay, but not nearly as good as the first did, box office wise. Critics seemed to really like it though. In less than a year after the movie premiere, Puerto Rican actor Raul Julia, who played Gomez, was reportedly in the hospital for intense abdominal pain related to stomach cancer he had already started treatment for. While stuck in the hospital, he was positive about the outcome, reviewing a script for the film Desperado. Unfortunately, he didn't make it out of there alive. The sudden death of Raul Julia in 1994 helped put an end to the movie series.
Rest in peace.
But in between the two movies, there was a Saturday morning cartoon revival in 1992. This was the second attempt at an Addams Family cartoon by the one and only Hanna-Barbera. The Scooby-Doo creators had apparently always been fans of the Addams Family because as far back as 1959, they had these characters who resembled Gomez and Morticia, Mr. and Mrs. J, evil scientist. The OG Gomez actor John Astin actually voiced his character in the 1992 cartoon, and overall it did better than it did 20 years ago with 2 seasons instead of 1, and an actual Daytime Emmy nomination. The two movies had their share of award nominations as well. The early 90s had the most Addams Family activity as a whole franchise. Outside film and TV, you could find Addams Family original soundtracks, car advertisements in other countries,
フォーマルシーンにもバッチリドレスを着ていてもこんなにスマートに乗り降りできます
toys and games. The pinball game was pretty memorable. It released in 1992 and apparently it's the best-selling pinball game of all time. They had 8 and 16-bit video games based on the movie and cartoon, sold over multiple consoles. While it proved to make an influence globally, an attempt to continue the franchise was made in 1998. Saban Entertainment with Warner Brothers made a direct-to-video movie unrelated to the previous two films called Addams Family Reunion. The director wanted something dark and edgy, but the production company wanted something goofy that was aimed at children. Tim Curry was a good choice for Gomez, and that was really the only good choice made here. The critics would agree, and they hated it. Reunion kicked off a new live-action TV show being shot in Canada called The New Addams Family. And it was another Addams Family show to get the one-season treatment. Outside of introducing the new character Grandpapa Addams, who was played by the OG Gomez actor from the 60s, nothing incredibly new was brought to the show. It ended in 1999 along with all the general interest of the franchise. It just seemed like they did everything that they wanted to do with it already. For the next whole decade, Addams Family was known as a 90s thing that you would only find in rare TV reruns, VHS tapes, and DVDs. The family made a brief return, though, for a Dark M&M's advertisement in 2007. But outside of that, there was another period of obscurity, kinda like it was in the 80s. It was always known, as far back as 1991, that the unique auteur, Tim Burton, would be perfect for directing an Addams Family film. He was approached to direct the 1991 film before it was given to Barry Sonnenfeld. Burton had turned it down though, as he was already busy with Batman Returns. Talks of Tim Burton finally agreeing to being a part of an Addams Family project started flowing around in the early 2010s. He was rumored to co-write, co-produce, and possibly direct a stop-motion movie, but it was never developed. The actual Addams Family revival for the 2010s mainly came from a new theater musical that started in Broadway and began touring. During the recent revival of the Addams Family with the animated movies, it began touring in the UK. The Broadway version of the 2010 season had Nathan Lane as Gomez, and interestingly enough, Bebe Neuwirth as Morticia. I just made a video on the Jumanji franchise, and Bebe Neuwirth just happened to be in two of those movies. The show had an original plot and wanted to be based more from Charles Addams' cartoons and not from TV plots from previous decades. This theater era was a tribute to the original Addams Family concept and its creator. A new book compilation came out in 2010 to celebrate the musical and legacy. The book Evolution included unpublished cartoons, how the characters evolved through the years, and the creator's own interpretation of his characters, something many people have never actually seen or known about given all the character interpretations over the years. Nathan Lane's comedy would help sell the musical, and while it had mixed responses, it won several awards for its set design. Now, after the Burton rumors proved false, a 3D animated film was announced by the current holders of the Addams film IP, MGM Studios, in 2013. This is the movie that eventually came out in 2019. The Addams Family animated movie Revival. Clearly just another animated family film that was 86 minutes long, but it had a pretty big production behind it. You had well-known faces behind the voices, including Snoop Dogg as Cousin It. It came out October 2019 and did very, very well in that box office. Now, there was a trend going on in the 2010s for animated family media that were Halloween themed. Ideally, the Munster family was doing really well in animation. The biggest example of this was the Hotel Transylvania franchise, and you would notice a lot of toy merchandise coming out like Munster High dolls. There's also that early childhood cartoon with the little vampire girl to come out, and it seemed like the animated film industry wanted to ride this wave that Hotel Transylvania started. The generic box office bomb Munster Family tried riding this Monster Family wave, and I really can't blame them for trying. The Munster Family concept does really well, and this was already proven way back in the 60s when the Munsters and the Addams Family were first on air. It holds very positive messages about what a family is, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to be a girl who likes dead possums and raccoons and shit. MGM wanted the Addams Family to ride this Hotel Transylvania wave as well, but maybe it was too late. The sequel Addams Family movie of 2021, which looked fairly derivative of Hotel Transylvania 3's plot of having the monsters go on summer vacation, was pretty much sabotaged by the post-pandemic theater situation. It didn't do too bad financially, but it got a lot of low to average scores by the critics. It seems that nowadays something like an Addams Family project would do well on streaming services. But who would have the courage to revive it that way, and how? The industry knows quirky families work, but now in the 2020s, we need something fresh. There needs to be a unique angle to the genre. Why not something like The Addams Family from the perspective of Wednesday? This would happen to be a great idea, as writer and producer Melissa Hunter first proved in the early 2010s. She created a web series that depicted an adult Wednesday Addams navigating through life. It was called Adult Wednesday Addams.
No, you do realize that we don't actually sell fleas here, right?
Well, I'm in a rush. Any pest will do.
Hey, who are you wearing?
It's faux. I don't have the budget for real human skin.
With 13 episodes and over 20 million views, it was a huge accomplishment on YouTube. But the web series couldn't stay up or continue because of the copyrighted use of Wednesday Addams' name. You can still find the webisodes on Vimeo and Melissa Hunter's website. So despite this great idea, we needed it to be official. So again, who can we call on to officially reboot this franchise in a brand new way, with a different perspective? In 2021, it seems we would all get what we wanted through Netflix, as they announced a live-action TV series based on Wednesday Addams, with Tim Burton himself as the director. Finally, it would seem we have the perfect matchup for an Addams Family reboot. I mean, I don't trust Netflix alone to respectfully adapt anything. But getting the rights holders to Addams Family and Tim Burton to agree on a TV series was something only they could do. It's something the universe had been trying to do since 1991, and we will be watching, whether we're subscribed to Netflix or not. If you don't understand how perfect Burton is for Addams Family, please note that he made Edward Scissorhands and Nightmare Before Christmas, two dark comedies literally doing the same thing the Addams Family does, telling a story on how to not judge a book by its cover. Another thing that should have everyone sold on this new Wednesday series is the fact that they got Christina Ricci on the cast. It's not certain who she'll be playing, but she's in it. Also notice that the series will have a more obvious Hispanic aesthetic with the Addams Family, never before seen. It was always implied that the character Gomez was Spanish, therefore so were his cousins and children, but his heritage and accent was always put off as just another quirk of his, something that made him weird. The two 90s movies were the first to show a Gomez that was actually Spanish, with Raul Julia being Puerto Rican, and the recent animated movies have Gomez voiced by Oscar Isaac. Now we have the new live-action Gomez, played by Puerto Rican actor Luis Guzman. I mean, this guy looks like he should be playing a live-action Wario, but hell, Gomez in the cartoons looks like Wario himself. I respect the choice and how long he's been in the acting game. Another reason I'm sold on the Wednesday series is that its music is being produced by Danny Elfman. If you're familiar with Tim Burton's films, you know Danny Elfman is always making his music. They've been working together since the 80s. So it seems that for once, Netflix is doing everything right regarding a reboot series. They're making it realistic and true to the source material while giving the audience what they want. With this, the Addams Family will continue on for another decade of relevance. With the help of the monsters, the Addams Family taught society a very important lesson. As far back as the 60s, these shows would teach that just because someone looks scary, doesn't necessarily mean that they are. That even if they look and act completely different from the norm, as long as they treat you with respect, you should treat them the same way. It shouldn't matter if you're uncomfortable, and that it's normal to have a big blended family. The only thing that mattered is that they were a loving family just like any other, and everyone was happy. The world needs the Addams Family today more than ever, just to be a reminder that everybody is different. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, be sure to thumb me up and subscribe for more random nostalgia and interesting coincidences surrounding said nostalgia. See ya.